My name is Arya Kosek, and I'm currently a sophomore at Menlo School. And I'd first like to begin by just sharing why I became involved with Safe Space, which is a nonprofit youth-based mental health organization. And seeing my own struggles with mental health, as well as those of my family members, I really felt the need to join a community where we could openly discuss our mental well-being and work towards reducing the stigma surrounding mental health education and conversation. So, joining Safe Space has been incredibly transformative for me. It has allowed me to participate in initiatives that align with my own mental health interests and connect with others who share my passion for making positive change. So, today I'll be sharing my personal journey with mental health in the context of sports and how it's influenced the person I am today. I'm just going to start off with talking about how I started my athletic journey. So, throughout elementary school and early into middle school, I was never super athletic. In fact, the idea of running one lap around the track terrified me. However, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I became a lot more aware of the beauty standards I saw on social media. And until the end of sixth grade, I didn't know what a calorie, a carb, or what abs were. But as I saw TikToks and Instagram Reels promoting 2-week ab challenges or no sugar diets, I eventually got absorbed in what I thought was a healthier lifestyle, but it was actually just harmful beauty standards. Additionally, during the pandemic, my older sister was battling her own eating disorder, which involved intense overexercise. And sadly, I looked up to this instead of realizing its toxic effects. So, transitioning to seventh grade, along with playing club volleyball, I started working out in addition to my practices. I also began following influencer diet hacks, and I even started running in the morning while everyone else was sleeping just to look like the people I admired. And the saddest part at the time was when I did these actions, I never saw them as signs of an anxiety disorder, but rather as a part of my health journey. And having a sister who was so sick meant that my parents never saw my behavior as unhealthy at first because our whole family was focused on supporting her. So, after seventh grade, once my volleyball teammates and even friends noticed me supposedly getting healthier, my family began to become a lot more concerned. And after meeting with the doctor to discuss a proper balance between sports and nutrition, although there were ups and downs, I slowly started opening up to my parents about my struggle and my constant need for control over my looks. So, while I was in recovery from this cycle of control with my doctor and family, during my volleyball off season, I decided to try eighth grade cross country because all my friends were doing it for fun. And when I secretly was doing my morning jogs in seventh grade, despite the fact that the action itself was so negative, I always knew that I could have talent in the sport of running if I trained a little bit more seriously. Therefore, as I gained a better balance in exercise and nutrition, I was able to run eighth grade cross country out of joy of running instead of self loathing. So eventually, by my eighth grade summer, I was unable to keep up with the travel commitment for club volleyball, so I decided to step down and transition to running as my full-time sport. Especially while I was started fueling myself more like an athlete, I was able to notice the immense effects that this caused on my actual running skill set. And I just noticed my capabilities greatly improved during this cross country season. So after joining the team, I just automatically fell in love with the program. And as our preseason began, I quickly learned that high school sports were a very different level of competition and seriousness than my fun 1 or 2 mile eighth grade cross country races. So as the season progressed and my own skill set improved, I was able to place in the top 10 for many state races and was named league first team as only a freshman. However, do you mind switching the slide? Thank you. However, as the track season started, I began to place excessive pressure on myself to always perform my best. This cycle of pressure meant that I stopped listening to my body's needs and only thought about working so hard until I received the end result. At the time, I thought all athletes persevere through pain because that's how you get stronger. But little did I know that ignoring proper recovery would later result in an injury. Once I got to a large national invite called Oregon Relays at the University of Oregon, I knew deep down I was not in a position to run. My hip had been hurting for about 2 weeks, but I failed to tell my coaches and parents because I'd convinced myself that it was just soreness and it would go away. During the 2 mile track race, I heard a pop in my hip and I knew that I needed to stop running, But I decided to keep going because I physically could not let myself fail. Once I crossed the finish line limping, I knew something was seriously wrong. A couple weeks later, after barely being able to walk, I was officially diagnosed with a stress fracture in my right hip, which meant no running for anywhere from 11 weeks to 6 months, depending on the speed of my recovery. Do you mind switching the slide? Thank you. After hearing this news, I was just devastated and very, very guilty, as well as just filled with anxiety because a doctor had confirmed something that I knew deep down, which was that I pushed myself way too hard. These next couple months were extremely tough for myself because for so long, I felt like the act of running was my only peaceful escape. Instead of opening up to my family about feeling imprisoned in my new athletic restrictions, I avoided any instance where running was mentioned. And I even stayed indoors for a while because I didn't want to be reminded of runners being able to run outside. Although, about 2 months into my recovery, my grandpa, who immigrated from India when he was 20, visited us in June. He noticed that I was a lot quieter than normal, and I decided to open up to him about my poor mental health struggles while not being able to run because we were very close. Although he had always provided me with inspiring advice before, to him and in the Hindu religion, poor mental health is not properly recognized and often shamed. He told me that my fear of becoming unfit was all in my head and refused to believe that his own granddaughter had mental health struggles. It saddened me to hear that a role model I looked up to for so long and a culture as a whole didn't believe in my real struggles. So, after a long phone call with my sister, she convinced me to start seeing a therapist. Once I started discussing with my therapist about my feelings of hopelessness and anxiety, she connected me to a doctor who diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder. Now, during the beginning of the summer, with the addition of my new modes of support, both physically and mentally, I was able to start slowly adjusting back into running. Although I was only able to run 2-minute intervals at first, I was just so grateful because something I grew to love was taken away from me, and now I was able to appreciate the challenge after not being able to run for so long. So I realized after this period of not being able to run that it wasn't the action of not being able to run that was so hard for me, but instead it was the lack of control I felt that inhibited me from completing my high achieving goals that I set for myself. So, transitioning from my injury into summer, I knew that my fitness had greatly declined, which was really hard for me to accept at first because working out had become such a part of who I was. But that summer, I decided to put my head down and I decided I would use the summer to do everything I could to build all my hard work back up. After many physical therapy sessions, I mastered the importance of stretching and cross training to prevent injury, which I took very seriously all summer, in addition to continuing my work in nutrition. Do you mind switching the slide? Thank you. And once the cross country season actually started, I finally felt fully recovered and able to take on the challenge. So, until about halfway through the season, I was having a very strong season physically. I won the California Woodbridge Varsity Girls Race. I placed top three in many meets, and I was named League Most Valuable Runner. And then, after being crowned TCS Championship, I just started receiving a lot more attention from my school's athletic association and even newspapers, which made me feel really rewarded. Despite this, after every meet, no matter how I did, I had such a hard time being truly proud of myself. There was always another voice of doubt inside of me saying I could have done better or I could have run faster. Similar to the way I internalized my injury in my freshman season, my sophomore season, I was now hiding my immense fear of underperformance and failure. This fear even manifested into my practices preparing for our state championship meet, in which I was the only girl from my school running individually. If I was slower than my goal interval times that my coaches set for me during practices, even by a few seconds, I was immediately defeated. It was during this specific second half of the season that running felt like a task versus something that I loved to do. So, when the state meet began, I was extremely in my head about being top 10, a goal both my coaches and I had set for myself. And after passing the mile mark and starting to move down to 11th place, I did something that I'd never done before in any race. I stopped. Even as my coach was supporting me to keep going, I just decided to stop running. And the hardest part about cross country is there are no second chances. So I had to accept in that moment that my season was officially over. Instead of admitting that I stopped out of fear to myself and others, I blamed it on my hip and did not finish. After this happened, I felt so defeated that I ended my season on such a low note and could not stop fixating on what I did. So, the following week, I told my mom that I needed to see a sports psychologist to work through my mental fears while running. Once I was able to reflect and think about the true reason why I stopped, it all connected back to the same fear of failure. In my head, every race I did well meant I set a new standard for myself that I had to beat every time. Every goal, whether in practice or competition, my coaches set for me that I did not meet meant I automatically failed. Therefore, my freshman season, whenever I felt this fear of failure, I just told myself to work harder despite my physical injuries. But my sophomore season, I was so scared of failing that when I felt mentally weak, I would just stop. Because if I stopped running in my head, I wouldn't have the opportunity to both succeed or fail. So it felt like I was escaping the pressure I'd put on myself. Additionally, this fear all stemmed back to my struggles of not being in control, because although running is one of the more straightforward sports, it's still extremely unpredictable, and not everything is always going to be something I can control. Especially as a perfectionist in both my academic and athletic life, I've always struggled with not being able to accept not meeting my own high standards or not being the best. So, this past season, after a lot of reflection, I've learned that no matter how many races I run or practices I attend, my results and times are not who I am and are not always things that I can control. In fact, despite the effort I put into sports, running does not define who I am and all of my other accomplishments. My family and friends don't like me for the times I run, but rather the person and character I am. So, as I continue to participate in my sophomore track season, I am making it my goal to run out of love instead of out of fear. So, in conclusion, it's so important to check in on your overachieving or perfectionist friends because you never know what internal battles they are facing. The biggest compliment I've received in my life is my drive and regimentedness, but these traits have also contributed to my biggest physical and mental struggles. Linking my message to one frequently promoted by Safe Space is that it's crucial to emphasize the significance of initiating discussions about mental health, particularly early in life, especially in middle and high school. Because early prevention and intervention can truly prevent athletes such as me from enduring seasons where they feel anxious and hopeless, and this eventually can lead to physical injuries and mental health challenges. So, thank you all for listening, and I'm so grateful to speak to all you about myself, and I'm excited for the Q&A later. Thank you.
Today I'll be speaking about myself. It's very basic backgrounds like I'm from very remote village in Bihar, and where I studied my early educations. I did my early educations in the sort of gurukuls, then went to Super 30 and then IIT Delhi, and currently I am doing intern in Tesla. So how it happens, what was the journey, how mental resilience, the role of society, parents and all, I'll be talking all those things. As I highlighted here, this will be the sort of story of the resilience and the self-belief. I will see a lot of examples during our story. So how it started, it start yeah, how it started. So it started from very early educations, from the village Gurukul. Then I went for the hostel life. Then Super 30, it's very famous institution. I don't know how many of you know about this. Then IIT Delhi and Tesla. Everyone know like how IIT Delhi and Tesla is. But today, how it takes the journey to reach there. This was sort of my picture depicting my early education. So it's not real because there was no smartphone. Means actually like the electricity and the very basic community come couple of years ago. So but thanks to this legend who used to teach the whole village like only 30 in Indian rupees, which is around $0.4 per month. He used to teach every subject, every all seven subjects throughout the day. And This was sort of the only one options in the whole village to do something study, but it was like only available till class fifth. And after class fifth, you have to take decisions. Like most of the parents, either you stay with your parents, support the family occupation. Mostly it was farming. It was very common for everyone in the village, or either go nearby your village, and then the last option maybe you can go to the city. Almost 95% of our parents, mostly due to economic background, used to refrain sending their child, because economic was the very, like, very big major factor, and there was no other way to take any educations. So, but yeah, like, here you see what's the role of parents. What's like, even in that case, I remember correctly, I was not ready to go to the school because it was very tough for them to maintain my fees, education fee, and all those things. But yeah, when I went to school, like, that life was also not very easy. I was at the age of 9. You were living alone, far from your family, in the hostel where ragging used to be a very common thing. But like, hard times, that was the time where I used to learn the life that make a good life lessons. And like, there was always like economic difficulty. Your whole family income is going in your education. Are you going to, and also, like, till class 7th 8th, I was not very good in education. Like, till class 5th, you haven't got very good level of education. Like, English was, like, I don't even know the English words till class 6th. Then, like, I was average till standard 8th or 7th, then start gaining uh, get gaining traction. And I think in class 9th and 10th, I used to be sort of one of the topper in the class. But what after class 10th, like, till class 10th, the fees was like where my parents can manage, like, somehow they can invest the whole incomes and somehow they can manage. But what after class 10th, like, the general fee to prepare for any competitive exam was just uh, beyond the scope of my parents. So then there is a super 30, how society can play important role to you. Here is the example of the super 30. Super 30 is the institution who gave you the free educations, who free lodging, free fooding, and everything for free, and used to prepare for the JEE exam. JEE is sort of very one of the premium, or one of the toughest exam in all India. So luckily, I got selected in Super 30, and that's the turning point of my life. And you can see, I don't know, it's in Hindi, it's in Indian language. I don't know how many of you can understand this, but once you are in Super 30, people used to say, like, yeah, if you are in Super 30, then definitely you are making to IIT or something big institution. And you can see a lot of pictures, like, I was 99.9 percentiles in the JEE mains. KBPY is sort of all India exam where I got 100 rank all over the India, and where like only 1500 people got selected in KBPY. Similarly, I got some scholarship. I think it's around INR 2 lakhs from the Ministry of HRD. And yeah, after getting into the Super 30, but definitely, like, in Super 30, it was hard resilience, the hard sacrifice. Like, in 2 years of that class, standard 11th and 12th, I never, like, I hardly went to my village or my parents like 2 or 3 times. And yeah, it was the whole dedication throughout the 2 years to get into the IIT. And like, no guess, I was in IIT Delhi for my undergrads. Still, like, it's a very interesting story of this IIT Delhi. Like, I was 2019 to 2023 batch, and pandemic hits way, like, in 2020. Everything was shut down. We were at the home, just, you were in the college, but you were nothing to do with the college. Then I came to know this Formula student team who used to make electric race car. You can see my picture in this car. So I joined this team, and I came to know, like, during pandemic, it's a very interesting story of the pandemic. Like, whole college was shut down, whole city was shut down, almost country was shut down, and we were in the city, we were outside the college in the 1 bh, and I think in 2 bhk, and we built the car in that 1 bhk. Like we were sleeping on the floor, we were just, we, I think we were 30 people, all spending time with each other, sleeping on the floor, eating, making food with ourselves. That was very interesting story. And that's where we make a car inside the house, because there were no options. But that makes, but although at that time I was like in the second year, but I learned a good story, how fighter you can be, and how that gave me the message. And in later that years, that sacrifice plays into role. And we own, like we were the sort of first Indian teams to win any international awards in the international competition. You can see the awards there. I have a very one video where you can see, where I'll share my goosebumps. Like definitely, if anyone will see that video, you will feel the goosebumps. How you, means like you are representing the whole India at the at the foreign land. And ultimately, in the final year, I was appointed the team captain of my team, like starting from nowhere. And then story begins, and the final year, I was the team captain, leading the team. And if you see this video, I don't know, let me know if you like the sound and the video is okay. Like just imagine the moment, like you were the only Indian teams, you are representing the whole country, and you are on the foreign land in Germany. You know, like it's very difficult. They are sort of master of the automotive industry, and to win any awards on their land, it was really a very great feelings. Like whenever I just remember that moment, the winner is Indian Institute of Technology. Like it still feel very goosebumps. So yeah, this was like my formula student journey, where like you can imagine, like you are in just a final year, or you are just undergrads, and you are making the whole car from scratch. Like you are with the nothing in the blank. You are starting the designing or manufacturing by yourself, testing, managing whole a team, managing whole finance of the year, managing the transportation logistic from the one country to the other. You are doing everything just during your undergrads. And this results like to like not only my team success but my personal success too. And uh, I got, like there is a very also interesting story of my placement. Like generally in our college in IIT Delhi, this placement season start around the November and December, where everyone was just busy uh, in placement. Yeah, everyone was just busy in the placement. But yeah, at the same time, there was a very important phase for my team. Like you have to design your car, you have to finish, you have to maintain your the team timeline and all those things. So like I ditched the whole placement season, because you have to maintain your team first. And like till January I was with like nothing, no job, nothing. And yeah, I still remember whenever I used to meet my friends, I used to be in like mace and or any common gathering, people used to say, and at the same time, I used to spend like 16 to 18 hours with my team, just starting from morning 8, 9, sleeping in the night 8, in I think around 2 or 3, sleeping on the workshop. Just it was very hard time, and the people used to say like, hey, you are doing such a hard, and what your future? You are not getting any jobs and all these things. But yeah, like that's come here the self belief. Like I have strong self belief in myself. Like it will come play, it will give back after a certain time. And it happened. Like my sort of my dream or my aim was to go for the F1 company, and I was interviewed also by some Mercedes and some couple of more company. But yeah, finally Tesla selected me, and uh, yeah, I am here. And it was like internship originally for 6 months, but yeah, I did well. My manager, my whole team, directors, and everything was happy. Got very good experience. Used to like work with very great mind, and they extend my internship, and hopefully we'll see in the future what future holds for me. Yeah, this is me in USA, and hoping to. Uh, you never know what next, but yeah, hoping a bright future. Yeah, this is all from my side.
I'm currently a freshman at the University of California, San Diego. I'm studying business economics with a minor in real estate development. A little bit about why I chose this as my major and my minor. It really stems back to an endeavor I partook in high school, and that involves studying land development in association to a mental health center in an internship. Let me go ahead and share my slides before I continue. Before I start, I'd like to first give thanks to CWC for giving me the opportunity to speak today, and to you all for arriving on time and for listening to my presentation. Additionally, before I start, I'd like to give a little details about myself, as I mentioned before, and what the presentation will entail. So once again, as you all know, my name is Aryan. I'm currently a student at the University of California, San Diego, studying business economics. And what my presentation will entail is my story, specifically about how I started, why I started, the process, including the downs and the ups, and most important, the key takeaways that I truly believe that anyone can implement in their lives, regardless of endeavor. So where does this really start? So it really starts with having the weight problem and unfortunately having prediabetes. What this was happening for, the reason why this was happening was because of bad habits. And it was ultimately due to the fact that I lacked purpose in my life. And because I lacked purpose in my life, I had lots of bad habits. I had no reason to develop good habits. And what these current bad habits were obsessively eating, watching and consuming entertainment that did not benefit my life, and overall not really having good structure in my life. But from going to the position of not having good habits and structure, how did I take action? Why did I take action to improve my life? And it really comes back to, believe it or not, a doctor's appointment that in which I received an enlightenment about what was going on in my current situation. And this is when I was around 12 or 13, and I had to go to a blood testing section in the doctor's office to keep track of my blood to make sure I was not diabetic. And this was my first time doing a blood withdrawal. I remember going into the room, seeing a reclined black chair and 20 needles on the left, 20 needles on the right. As you can imagine, I'm 12 or 13 at this point, and I was having all kinds of thoughts, including all the needles being put in my body, which was not fun at all. So I ran around the room until I physically could not, and I was persuaded to sit in the chair and get my blood withdrawn. I remember what my dad told me. He told me that this is something I might have to do for the rest of my life. Later that day, I reflected on what I experienced at the doctor's office. Discomfort, fear, and not understanding why I had to do this and not any of my friends had to do it. And I realized all of what was happening was due to no one else but me and my bad habits and my choices. When I understood that it was my fault that I was in this current position, that I could not excel in sports because I wasn't physically capable enough, that I lacked confidence in school because of not keeping promises to myself. I I made myself understand that I had the power to change my circumstance. And what that led to in the next couple of weeks of that appointment was doing obsessive research about how I can improve my life because I became obsessive with improving and changing it for the better. And what happened was, unfortunately, the internet has an abundance of knowledge and is not really consolidated to giving you one clear path. And I consolidated my research to, which I don't recommend, a no carb diet and running 3 miles a day. And because I knew why I wanted to achieve it, which was to get rid of these struggles in my life, to be a little bit normal, to have enough self-respect to change my life, I stuck to the routine for a year. What this led to was success. I actually changed things for the better. And by the way, that's my loving mother on the right. I noticed that I was seeing a change in my body, and what this made me realize is that I am more capable than I actually thought previously. And what this led to was an increase in self-confidence, and that confidence led to a higher belief in myself and my abilities. And because of that, not only did I succeed in my health, but I succeeded in my academics. I succeeded in my sports because I truly had the belief that I was capable for change. The issue with this was that it was unsustainable. I did not treat this as a lifestyle. I did not treat health as a lifestyle or change for the better as a lifestyle because I didn't understand the fundamental idea that regardless of where you go in life, where regardless of whatever goal you want to achieve, it's still a journey to retain whatever success you have. That in itself is a journey. And that's something I did not understand. And so what did that lead to? It led to a plateau in which I regressed in my health, I regressed in my confidence, I regressed in my academics as well. And it's due to the unsustainability of what I was doing. I did not understand this idea that it's very vital that whatever goal you want to achieve, you have to understand that when you achieve that goal, it is still a process, it's still a journey to retain your success. It's a full-time job to make sure you can still retain the success you have finally achieved. And unfortunately, I gained a lot of weight back. And it wasn't until I came back into my bad habits that the switch came back on. I remember one day I was back into my completely bad habits where I was watching entertainment all day. I ate 3 Hershey's chocolate bars, and on that third chocolate bar, I had to ask myself, where was the individual before that strive for a better version of myself? Where was that individual? And I reminded myself of what I achieved before, and that pushed me to action once again. And I was unwilling to give up this time. This time I approach it as a lifestyle rather than just temporary success. And now I essentially just I walk. I don't do any cardio anymore. I understand. I finally did the research that allowed me to find a more sustainable routine for myself in which I use non-exercise activity thermogenesis as a way to understand how much all the amount of exercise I have to do in order to lose an appropriate amount of fat. And that was a lot more sustainable approach for me. That's the point. And what this led to again, as the last time, was an increase in confidence, an increase in belief. And since I've been able to retain this for over a couple of years, I've learned that once again, I'm a more capable individual than I previously thought, or that I might think of myself currently. And it led to me for striving for bigger things because I now learned that having higher self standards for myself is because I have enough self-respect to do so. I have enough self-respect to strive for big accomplishments. I know that I can be a better individual. I can perhaps share my story to other people. And that is because I know for a fact that I'm capable of doing so. And one of the reasons or one of the examples of striving for bigger things is doing a TEDx, in which I discuss the fundamental idea of understanding your why, finding your why. And this idea is that you must attach meaning to work or actions to a greater purpose. Because any goal worth of value requires sacrifice. So you must understand that what you do every day is for a greater purpose, or whatever you set yourself up for a routine to attain a goal. You must remind yourself that you're sacrificing things every day that you like in order to attain a long-term goal that is meaningful to you. And that is going to allow you to successfully discipline yourself much better. And another example for striving bigger things currently in my life right now, since I understand the idea of creating value social impact, I just started an online personal coaching business. And I'm not only going to be learning about how to create value, social impact, but I'm also going to be able to learn how to share more of how I attain success myself. So what are the key takeaways of my story? The key takeaways of my story are that you must understand that whatever goal you're trying to attain, regardless of what it is, health, mindfulness, or it could even be financial, you have to understand that what you do to attain this goal, it does not diminish. It does not go away when you attain the goal. It's still a journey to retain whatever you've achieved, because you can't, when you achieve something, you can't slack off and let yourself go, because you stop becoming the person that attained the goal in the first place. And you still need to be that person to retain it. In addition, when you prioritize your health, and when you see success in your body over time, you subconsciously start to understand, once again, that you are more capable individual than you think currently, or that you thought previously. And that means you understand you can succeed in much more difficult endeavors than you would ever think of even achieving before. And this is a testament to why I'm essentially going for an online personal coaching business, because this is a completely new area to me in my life. And I hope that I can learn more things in this endeavor. And lastly, the most important, I would say the most important thing is to understand, do not give up. Because if you don't give up, it's almost impossible that you don't achieve your goals. That's how I view it. Because I could have easily just given up and just believed it's impossible to get fit in a way that I like, or a way that I'm not killing myself every day running around. But no, it is possible. I think anything is possible if you're willing to not give up. And that's all I have for you guys for today.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.